Okay, so here are the top 10 tips from me. I've done some demos in my time, and I've seen a lot of things that I think are sort of, in some ways when you hear them, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's so obvious. Um, but I just thought I'd just enumerate some of them to maybe help make people's demos a little bit better than usual. Um, and so here they are. We're going to start from number 10 and work down to number one. So it's going to be exciting. Um, uh, but yeah, here we go. So uh, number tip number 10. Okay, if you're going to be presenting a demo, so this applies, so all of these, by the way, apply to either if you're recording something for putting online or playing later, or doing it live, because, well, for instance, even this one, like if you get about 90% through your demo, and then suddenly some chat message comes up with a really embarrassing message, then you're going to have to go and edit it or re-record it, and that's really annoying. And it's distracting for you. It's possibly really embarrassing, but I don't know if you've ever seen this before in presentations you've been to, but if you ever see that happen and someone gets a message, it's impossible not to look at it. And I completely discard the slides and whatever the speaker's saying, and I'm just focusing entirely on whatever their message is. So just put on the do not disturb. In Big Sur, this is kind of what you do. It's in the top right. It's that little slidey icon there, and just turn it on so you don't get messages while you're presenting. All right. Tip number 9, close the secrets. So quit 1Password, close up Slack, just in case you accidentally change to a desktop that has Slack open with a private conversation during your live feed. It's super embarrassing. It's really cringy. So just make sure if you're doing like live code, not live coding, or code demos or whatever, if you've got examples up, make sure they don't have any secrets in them, like API keys and things. Well, it's a security problem, but also it's just annoying to have to go and then rotate those API keys after you're done, or re-record the video in potentially in our case. Bump up your text size. Man, like this gets me every time, and everyone does this because everyone when they shares their screen and shares code, they just look at what they would see if they were coding. And it's super useful to have a really big overview of the code so you can see what's going on in a file when you're actually doing coding. But when you're presenting, when you're in a video, just bump it up, because it's not only the sometimes that video gets smooshed into like a really small part of the screen, or sometimes the quality when you're presenting, when you're live feeding, it just makes it really blurry. So having that text size like super big is really, really important. So do something like this. Make it really big. Make it big. Make it big and bigger until you think it's too big. And when it's too big, that's the right size. Of the other thing, consider closing the kind of file explorer tree view on the left hand side, and that will help maybe focus attention onto the code that you're trying to show people, because at the end of the day, even if you can't see as much in the screen, it's better for the audience to they're going to have a hard time reading code on the fly anyway, so just focus them in on the bits that really matter. So do that. All right, practice some. Practice makes perfect, but like run through it sometimes. Like it helps weed out the bits that you'll stumble on. Do not practice in your head. If you do that, then that's not the same as practicing as actually saying it out loud. But don't practice too much. If you practice too much, then, well, if you're anything like me, you end up sounding like a robot. And it's actually quite nice to have that sort of like fear and nervousness. It sort of makes you human, gives you that enthusiasm, gives you that drive to get it right and try and not mess up too much. So practice. It's a good idea. Okay, tip number 6, pictures and diagrams. You will say words during your presentation. You'll say loads and loads of words, and there might be words on your slides as well. But you'll be trying to convey like important things or complicated things. So why not like add some color and life to your presentations. It will help engage your audience and help them to understand these complicated concepts. Consider a sprinkling of emoji to invoke some emotional responses from your audience. And here in this emoji, you can see the exploding brain emotion. So yeah, that will kind of help convey what you're trying to convey. All right, tip number 5. Difficult, like I was saying before, difficult concepts or complex interactions are just not understood instantly by everyone. So if what you're saying is particularly important in your presentation, then say it slowly. Say it differently, say it in a different way, say it over and over. Say it once more, say it more and more and more until they finally get it. So you can think of it like this progress bar, and the audience, the more you say something, the more of the audience will understand, and they will understand it better as well, the more you say it, especially if it's important. Slides. Everyone loves slides. Do make slides for your presentation, even if it's just an intro slide, ideally more, because well, first of all, it will give your talk a bit of structure, and it will help you keep to time limits. It will help you think about what the content is and how you're gonna tell your story, and try not to focus on the look, because then you can just spend all your time making things look really pretty and then actually forget about the actual content. And to help you with that, I recommend using HackMD, because you can just write your slides in Markdown, and you just use the horizontal rule separator to separate between slides, and you can focus on just the content. And HackMD has this awesome thing where it takes that Markdown, and if you go to the share menu, you can see at the top there, and then hit the view mode and change it to slide mode, then when you hit preview, then it will just turn your Markdown into slides. It's magic. Pretty rad. So I use this quite a lot. I didn't for this one because I saw that I think it was Agatha had done some nice slides for this, and I was like, oh, I've got to have them. But that's not the message I'm trying to send. Never mind. All right. So tip number 3. Okay. The audience, or your audience, will read what you write. There is no need to also read to them. Although it's comforting, it is also sleep-inducing. A sleeping audience is not desirable. So instead, just write the most salient points on the slide and fill in the details with your mouth words to keep the audience listening and engaged. Yeah, we can all read. So don't fill your slides with text. Don't have a wall of texts. It's not good. It's a bit boring. This is the most dull slide that I have in this deck. I always remember when I was back at uni, some of my lecturers would have would make slides, and they'd always make them available to download. And the lecturers who decided to put all of the content or everything that they said or just read from the slides, put it all on the slides, I was like, that's great. I'll download that and not go to the lecture. And that, by the way, is not a good way to experience university. So like the actual best lectures were the ones where they had slides, you could download them so you could remind yourself later of what was said, but you were there, you were present, and you were learning all of the bits around the points in the slide, and I actually understood it a lot better if I actually went to the lecture. So do that. Encourage people to actually listen to what you're saying. Right. Okay. Tip number 2, prepare to fail. Okay, so there's situations where you feel that everything's going great and then suddenly, kaboom. If you're doing some live coding or demoing, then just prepare to fail. Have some sort of backup. So if you're doing a demo or even some live coding, then maybe have a video that you can show. Maybe if you're live coding, then have the completed code ready that you can just sort of either copy from or crib from, or just show. Just because things are going to go wrong, it's just it happens. It happens. You will be tempted to make a tiny change to your code about 10 minutes before your presentation, and it will have unintended consequences, and you won't know until you're in there, and then it's failing, and then no one, you don't know what's going on. You're panicking. The audience is telling you, it's trying to give you pointers, but you don't know. But I'd say if things fail, things go wrong, don't worry. Give yourself like 10 seconds to fix it, and then if you can't fix it, if you can't get it fixed, then just move on. Don't keep the audience waiting. It will stress you out. It might throw you off the rest of your presentation if you keep trying and can't get it, and the audience are going to lose interest. And so yeah, just remember, the demo gods are not kind. You have to sacrifice many goats for make them happy, and even then, they are not fun to it's not fun, but it's always good fun when you're watching. Anyway, so finally, my final tip. Number one, remember, it's a show. It's a show. Treat it like a performance. And also, if folks are not going to be excited about your thing, if you're not excited about it as well. So be enthusiastic, bring that enthusiasm, and just be like, yeah, come on, and just have fun. Be proud of what you've achieved, because you've done something awesome, and also you've put yourself in front of all of these people, or you've recorded this video for everyone to see and comment on, and just be proud of it, and know that you're the only person who's done that, and just go and have fun and make awesome demos. And I hope that helped a little bit with making great demos. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan. Couldn't be more correct. We encourage you to turn on your cameras and mics, and Alex, you're more than happy to have it on. If you guys want to chat and connect, or if anybody has any questions at all, love to hear. How is your demo coming along, Dietrich? Adam, what's up? What's going on?
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to try and condense things into demos. I feel like that, I don't know, maybe you have some suggestions. How to balance between, like, I showed you the thing functions and explaining why it's important that the thing functions.
Yeah, so that's always a tricky thing. For me, I try and engage the audience with it as soon as possible. So if I can demo it first and then explain why later, then I'll always do it in that order, rather than kind of do the big slow lead up, because people are just, they're not necessarily going to follow you all the way up to the top, to the crescendo. So I try and just get that, and then maybe have something a bit later to keep the interest in terms of demoing. Yeah, it is tricky, and articulating yourself in such a short space of time is really tricky. But again, as long as you stick to the most interesting, and the thing is, you're not trying to necessarily educate people about everything that you're doing, but you want just to make them interested, because they can always come to you afterwards and ask about things. So if you make it interesting enough that you've grabbed that kind of, that's something that they're like, oh, wow, okay, I'm gonna, they will come if that's happened, unless it's like some sort of like proper like company learning experience where we're trying to actually teach people stuff, then which often presentations of this sort of type are not, then it's just make it interesting, make it fun, and get people's attention as soon as possible. I hope that answers a little bit.
Thanks. Well, we'll see how it goes.
I have a question. I don't know if there are any good answers to this, but I'm curious if you have like a command line demo, like the thing works in the command line and you run it, and maybe the thing that you get out of it is like maybe nothing, maybe it just doesn't error or something like that. And you're like, hey, it worked. Do you have any tips on how to make that a little bit more presentable?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I kind of always make sure there's some sort of output, even if it's just like log out, everything worked. Yeah, no, I'm not entirely sure. Other than stressing the fact that if it works, then it is a big deal before you start the program off. Yeah.
Another perhaps useful tip, if I might add, relates to Adin's question, I think, is that it's generally a good practice to try and pass one or maximum two kind of take-home messages. Very often people want to put, oh, I did this and I did this and I did the other one and I did a third one and a fourth one, and then the audience is confused. As Alan said, the absolute point is to just make people interested to go and look for what you've written, what you've done, and dig into it. So they need to leave kind of the presentation with, I know this guy did this, and that's where I'm going to find it. And, that's a success.
Yeah, and this comes down to repeating as well. If you've got you should have a point, at least one, not too many, like you said. That's a good point. Just make it known, make it heard, and help people understand it by just repetition, because otherwise you're not going to get everyone. You'll get some people.
Exactly.
Dietrich in the chat asked Alan, he said, how about video production? What tools are folks using? Is there anything that you recommend specifically?
I just use QuickTime, and I always refer to the, so Zach wrote some instructions on how to put the picture of yourself in for when you're recording the video. So like you can make QuickTime do a little overlay of your face, which I literally never knew how to do until I read that. And I can't remember when he recommended it, but I always refer back to it because I'm like, oh, I want to do that. But I just use QuickTime, just screen record, and then do the overlay thing if I can. If I do like having people's face in the top right. It sort of gives it a bit more of a I can sort of relate to people and get their facial expressions and stuff, and enthusiasm gets conveyed a bit better. But it's optional.
Can you guys hear me now? I'd love to jump in here because there's actually a great program called Loom, Loom, which runs through the Chrome browser, and it's super lightweight. The only tricky part is that it does require an internet connection. So if you disconnect in the middle of it, I don't believe it saves your recording. But I love it. It's like, it comes with a little circle in a corner. You do your whole demo. It has like the stop pause button. So if you get partway through and you realize you've messed up, you can pause it, go back and forth. I would highly recommend giving that a try, because QuickTime is Mac specific, I believe, and it's not really lightweight. Yeah. But I will post all of those notes in the Slack channel for everybody to check out.
I'm going to take some time to brag and plus one what Zach said. My husband was actually like a super early employee at Loom and built some really awesome features. So please check that tool out. It is really awesome and super helpful.
Any other questions? The other thing is, I believe everybody here is in the Slack channel. So if anybody wants early eyes on a presentation or they have questions or concerns, I'm always available for a, hey, how is this going? I'm sure Alan, when he has 1 minute of free time, can try to squeeze you in. But anybody else who has questions or thoughts, always happy to help.
Yeah, I'm totally happy to watch people's videos.
All right, well, if that's it, any more questions you guys do come across, we can feel free to drop in the Hack Week Slack. And we were also recording this video, so we will post it if you guys want to rewatch it. Alan, thank you so much for coming on and doing this again. I look forward to your presentation tonight. A reminder that all of those are due at 9 p.m. Pacific time. All right, thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Thank you.